number one news talk radio program in the Antelope Valley.
Mm-hmm.
You know, there's so much going on in the news today.
Madhouse.
It is. It's so much to talk about. There's a candidate forum today, and we'll talk about that in a minute. But, you know, yesterday was closing arguments in the trial of L.A. County Sheriff's Deputy James Sexton, who is charged with corruption, obstruction of justice. And, you know, this is interesting because he's facing like a decade plus in prison.
How much control did he have over it, or is he a patsy, or what's the deal with him?
I don't, in my mind, I don't think there's any question that he was told what to do and he was following orders.
Yeah.
All right. I mean, General Patton said march, and he marched.
So was Adolf Eichmann.
He wasn't acting rogue, by himself. Why that other people, specifically Paul Tanaka, why he, at this point, is not on trial as well, is beyond me.
Yeah,
is absolutely beyond me. I don't understand. And you know what else I don't understand?
Got pulled.
I don't understand why he's still in the race for L.A. County Sheriff.
Yeah, that's a good question.
Other candidates over the last day or two have been calling for him to step out. Okay? When you take the witness stand and you admit that you are under federal investigation, but yet you're still running for L.A. County Sheriff?
Well, maybe he just thinks that everybody's too stupid and he'll just fly under the radar.
He's not flying under the radar. He's not.
But is the populace paying any attention to that as a whole?
You know, I think it's very damaging to his campaign. But at the same time, question, and I'm thinking out loud, but say there's something fraudulent about soliciting donations to run a campaign when you know that you did something wrong that was criminal in nature.
Is there a law in that direction?
Well, I don't like it. I think he should have stepped out of the race.
I agree.
I really do. I think that he was directly responsible for what went on inside the L.A. County Jail. And, it's interesting because although people say, well, wait a minute, it started at the top with Lee Baca.
Right.
There is not one shred of evidence that points directly to Lee Baca.
Yeah, I'd love that. And if Angie were here, she would say,
I know she
can't be the top guy and not know that. But then at the same time, Obama gets a pass.
Okay, but so far, there hasn't been one shred of evidence.
Yeah, he saw that.
Tanaka's, his name was in emails.
Ooh.
His name has been referred to as, hey, orders came from. He's, and to be under federal investigation right now, and still be running for L.A. County Sheriff is wrong. I'll tell you something else that's wrong.
We sat and listened on KFI to how they're spelling all this stuff out against him, and yet the ads are still running. I find that humorous.
Yeah, and it takes a lot of money.
Oh yeah,
to mount a campaign.
That ain't cheap.
And it's funny you mentioned KFI because when Tanaka was on KFI, he stormed off that show. Okay. He didn't like the way that was going at all. Okay.
Yet that was before they sent the check over to run the spot.
It was.
Yeah.
It was. But, he knows that he needs to advertise every place.
Yeah.
Everywhere you can.
True.
Something interesting, though, and, one candidate, and this is a candidate that I endorse. I think you do too, Jeff. James Helmold.
Absolutely.
I think there's no question about it. So does Angelina.
Yeah.
And if you're listening to our show and you live in the Antelope Valley or anywhere in L.A. County, I can't tell you who to vote for. I can just suggest. Okay? Right. There's only one candidate, and that's going to be James Helmold.
Yes.
When it comes to the Antelope Valley, and this is our home. This is where we are. He knows the needs of the Antelope Valley. He knows what we need. He's pledged to bring more air resources to the Antelope Valley, to have a SWAT unit up here in the Antelope Valley, to have more canine, more resources, everything that the Antelope Valley needs.
Well, he's the only one that's even mentioned any kind of interest in us.
He's been spending a
Nobody
lot
else
of time in
cares.
the Antelope Valley.
Yep,
Okay, probably the only candidate that's really paying attention to the Antelope Valley.
absolutely.
And that's somebody that, and we should have him on the show next week. But that's, and I'll reach out and see if we could do that. But that's really who you should be voting for.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, if you
Hands
ask
down.
me,
Hands down.
there's no, and
If you love
Tanaka
your
should-
community and you want to feel safe in your community, he's the only one that pays attention. We're just stepchildren to everybody else.
Did you
if
hear
that?
this? Yeah. Did you hear this thing about Tanaka and shipping bulletproof vests?
Yeah.
And squad cars
Yeah.
to Cambodia through the city of Gardena.
Just
Every day
do your
there's-
job. Do your stinking job. Don't
Every
try to
day.
pad your wallet with side stuff.
There's more and more stuff that comes up
Yep.
about Paul Tanaka, and we've talked about his tattoo and his and belonging to this clique and this group and everything else. Why he's still in the race, I have no idea.
No.
I really don't.
No.
I do think that the jurors will come back with a verdict today.
They're expecting that, and then they got a whole bunch more on the docket, a whole bunch more deputies ready to roll.
Yeah, another 7 or so.
Yeah.
But I think they'll come. And, again, this is a guy that, this Deputy Sexton, this is a guy that I believe was following orders. Yeah, I mean, he didn't
Right.
just get up in the morning and say, hey, this is what I'm going to do.
Right.
Okay? Things were going on in the jail. The sheriff's department knew about it. Tanaka knew about
You
it.
can't excuse him. 'Cause I was never a sheriff, but I was in the military, and there is such a thing as an unlawful order. And you are not obliged to follow that.
And I understand what you're saying. Supposedly because of his knowledge of how the computer system worked, he was the guy that was, they dubbed him with the sword and said, hey, this is what you got to do. Change his name. And this guy's name, he was moved around and his name was changed 3 or 4 or 5 times. So people couldn't locate him.
Right.
And
Well, if the commanding officer of your ship says, shoot Seaman Jones, just because he doesn't like Seaman Jones, you're under no obligation to follow that order.
right, but when you get an order of, hey, move this guy, change his name for his own safety, okay, you're going to follow the order. I think. Do I think he should go to prison for 10 years or 12 years or 15 or whatever? No, I don't.
Just hang his badge up here and go work with Furman in Idaho.
I think you need to follow the trail of where the order came from. That's what I think you have to do. It's like a Watergate, and at the end of the day, Nixon had to resign.
Right.
I think that's what it is, myself. But we'll find out today. I don't think he should be going to prison for.
What do you
that
think
long.
the jury's going to come back with?
I think they're going to come back with guilty. I actually do.
Well, it needs to get cleaned up.
And I'm hoping that in the days to come, and I'd love it to see it before the primary, I'm hoping that Tanaka gets indicted.
Oh,
I really am.
that'd be wonderful.
Well, when you talk about corruption in the jails, and this is something that Angelina's on, all the time,
Oh, yeah.
that's something that cannot be tolerated.
Yeah, he's got
At all.
He has his fingerprints all over it.
That's something that you just can't
Got to be a
tolerate.
real narcissist to have this kind of stuff hanging over your head and still keep charging away at running for office.
But I'm telling you, there's something wrong with soliciting donations from people. I'm telling you, there's just something wrong.
Yeah.
I can't explain it. I don't know what it is yet, but there's something not right. You heard it here.
Well,
You'll see.
how many politicians have something? You are just one crossword away from somebody pouncing on them, and they're out there collecting campaign funds.
I know. I get it. So today, the Palmdale Chamber of Commerce, at our regular monthly membership luncheon,
Right.
is sponsoring a candidate debate forum. Members that are running for the 25th District for Congress,
Okay.
as well as the 36th District State Assembly, are going to be there. I'll tell you who's going to be there,
Okay.
and I'll tell you who's not going to be there. Steve Knight will not be there.
Okay.
Lee Rogers will be there. Who else running for Congress is going to be there? Tony Strickland will not be there.
I haven't heard anything from Tony Strickland here.
Navraj Singh is going to be there. He's running for Congress. Evan Thomas is going to be there. For Assembly, Steve Fox will not be there. Now, he's
got a good excuse.
He does, and we'll talk about that in a minute. Kermit Franklin's going to be there. Suzette Martinez will be there today. Tom Lackey will be there. J.D. Kennedy will not be there. He's probably tired of, he's worn out from spending time with John and Ken. We'll talk about that, too. Now, today, up in San Jose, Santa Clara County, Judge Brown is holding a hearing.
Right.
Regarding serial sex offender. And he was one of the first SVPs.
Yes.
Sexual violent predator. Christopher Hubbard, a 40-time convicted serial rapist who is set to be released tentatively in the Antelope Valley. And this was on the front page newswire this morning of Associated Press.
Wow.
They were talking about it today.
And this judge just doesn't care. Doesn't care.
Doesn't appear to care. Now, there are a lot of people from the Antelope Valley, and I think there were about 10,000 letters and submissions to this judge, which is a huge amount, all calling for the judge to reconsider and send him elsewhere or just keep him locked up. A lot of people cannot take the time away from work or family to travel up there to make a personal appearance. The judge says he will let everybody speak for 3 minutes and he'll listen to what you have to say. There was a caveat to that, and that was, in order to do that, though, you needed to register at 10 a.m. in the courtroom. Okay? So if you're not there at 10 a.m. this morning, you don't get to say anything. Steve Fox is going to be there, and I believe he is going to drop a bombshell on the judge.
He's going for the nuclear option.
I'd love to be able to talk about it, but I can't. We will talk about it tomorrow, though.
Yes.
And Assemblyman Fox has been pushing for other legislation to try to keep this guy, I'm not going to say behind bars, but hold him in a mental hospital.
Yeah.
But
from what I understand, there's plenty of beds. It's not an issue of that.
Exactly. So I think Assemblyman Fox is going to go about it another way. And I'm hoping that he's successful. But a lot of people are saying, it doesn't make any difference what you say to this judge. He is hell-bent on doing this.
See, that's what I don't like this, the amount of power that judges have. They have way too much power for any one individual.
I know. Now, John and Ken from KFI, they were up in Palmdale yesterday. And I listened to most of their show. Yesterday, and I know Mayor Ledford was on the show yesterday,
as well as Mayor Pro Tem Lackey and
was on the show yesterday. Was Steve on the show yesterday?
Yes, yeah, he was the first to speak with him.
Oh, was he here?
And they managed not to call him a hack this time.
Yeah, that was, and you know what, John and Ken, I think they were more civil and a little bit nicer this time.
I don't
being
think
in the Antelope